actually wanted to ask you about that. I was, what is it with so much satanic stuff in your music?
Because it's really dramatic, and at a certain point in time, certainly for people of a certain age like me, from what you might call a society which was, because I'm 62, so going back to like the late 50s, Europe was broadly Christian. A lot more people went to church back then than do now. Probably 4 or 5 times or even more, people would just turn up at church. They weren't deserted as they are now. And they would generally believe in things like absolute evil. And there'd be an absolute good, but nobody knew anybody who was absolute good. But for sure that absolute evil existed somewhere, because otherwise how could anybody be absolutely good? So you had to have something to measure yourself against it. And of course, what heavy metal bands did by adopting imagery was they shocked people. Because in the same way that the early Hammer movies reintroduced Dracula, but with sex. So they actually had, Dracula, blood, fangs, sex, the devil. All this stuff was like, oh my God, that is so shocking. But we really kind of turns us on in secret, And of course, as kids, you'd sort of like be forbidden to watch it. And of course, it would be interesting, and you'd watch it. And then you just use your imagination to create stories. And then you had films, a whole raft of films came out, The Omen and The Exorcist and things like that all had this idea of an actual physical force of evil. And it was quite exciting, really, not because you wanted to be it, but to know that you could imagine your way into the drama and put that into music and dramatize it.
I think also from a psychological perspective, I think all music, all kind of popular music, has in some sense been anti-establishment as well. So, obviously, you think of punk rock, for instance, as the obvious example, but even, the development of rock and roll was again a departure from the norm. The hippie culture in the late 60s was, long hair again. It was going against the grain of the establishment. And I think with like heavy metal kind of music, first of all, you've got, you can't get more anti-establishment than Satan. So I think that's why there's a very powerful narrative running through it.